Welcome to our webcast today, Public Safety Quality Assurance Best Practices and Tools. I'm Carrie Lozavio, editor of APCO's Public Safety Communications. To avoid interruptions, all attendees have been placed in listen-only mode. If you have any questions during the webcast, please type them into the Ask a Question field and click Submit Question. That's the Ask a Question field, not chat. We will try to answer as many of your questions as possible at the end of the webcast. We will be requesting your feedback during a couple of poll questions, and thank you in advance for your participation. To see and participate in the polls, you'll need to turn off the pop-up blocker on your browser. If you want to watch the presentation in full screen mode, click on the button that says Enlarge Slides on the bottom left. This will open a new window. Just be sure you don't close the original window with the webcast console. This webcast is being recorded, and an archive will be accessible at psc.apcointl.org within 48 hours. You'll get an email after the webcast with that information, so you don't need to remember it necessarily right now. We'll provide you with the link at the end of the presentation. Once this webcast has been archived, you can log in as many times as you want or download a PDF of the presentation. I'd like to get us started today by thanking our sponsors, DPI and Replay Systems. And one quick housekeeping note, this is not an APCO Institute-sponsored webcast, so no CE will be provided. DPI is a U.S.-based company with a rich 15-year history of providing its customers with exceptional next-generation 911-ready recording, quality assurance, and coaching software solutions. Over 1,500 customers rely on DPI systems daily, including Broward County Sheriff's Department, Washington, D.C. Unified Communications Center, Los Angeles County Sheriff, City of Phoenix Fire, California Highway Patrol, and the City of Detroit Police Department. DPI is a long-standing member of APCO, an active NENA Next Generation Program partner, and its products are available for purchase on the GSA schedule and through premier implementation and support partners, including Replay Systems. Since 1996, Replay has sold, installed, and serviced thousands of communications recording and quality assurance systems throughout North America. As you know, it's crucial to monitor the quality of emergency communications to reduce problems, limit liability, and improve performance. Today, we'll review the state of emergency communications and quality assurance standards. You'll learn best practices for designing objective QA evaluation forms and implementing an effective QA program to provide well-rounded performance assessments. You'll also learn about affordable tools for automating QA workflow and delivering timely feedback and coaching to telecommunicators to dramatically improve quality scores. The presentation slides have already been made available for you to download at dpi-corp.com/quality assurance. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers. Lori Van Gilder is the Manager of Quality Assurance Services with Replay Systems. Lori has been actively engaged in the public safety industry since 1986. She has spent most of her career at the City of Lake Mary, Florida Police Department, progressing from base-level E911 operator to managing 3 divisions, including E911 Communications, Records and Property, and Evidence. Lori became active with the Florida chapter of APCO and then became president of the state chapter in 2007. She has been instructing with the APCO Training Institute since 1999. She holds a bachelor's degree in adult vocational education and industry training. As the Director of Workforce Optimization at DPI, Patrick Folks is responsible for working with hundreds of public safety organizations throughout the world to help them reliably capture, evaluate, and improve their mission-critical communications. His work has been published in several public safety industry periodicals, including APCO Public Safety Communications, Mission Critical Communications, 911 Magazine, and Emergency Number Professional. Patrick holds an MBA from Pepperdine University and a BSc in Engineering from Arizona State University. Now let's listen while Patrick and Lori discuss public safety, quality assurance, best practices, and tools. Lori, take it away.
Hi there. As Carrie said, my name is Lori Van Gilder, and I'm with Replay Systems with Replay QA, the service division. Let's start off with where do we stand today in communications? Our PSAPs are continually evolving with security concerns, greater citizens' demands, increasing laws, regulations, and standards, and fighting to keep up with the rapidly evolving technologies. On the interoperability forefront, we are realizing that 1 out of 5 households rely exclusively on wireless communications. Most of those cell phones have cameras and video options. 110 billion text messages are sent every month. That is approximately 14 per day per cell user. And we all know the upcoming millennials will increase that number. An estimated 20 million households now use VoIP rather than traditional landlines. And telematics is not going anywhere. OnStar has over 4 million subscribers. With all of these technologies, we face an exciting opportunity to provide faster and better emergency services. Utilization of these technologies is one of the main reasons for the government-sponsored NextGen 911 initiative. With the current economic conditions, we are clearly familiar with the pressures to be more cost-effective and efficient. Many agencies are already looking at or have already faced consolidations. The mantra in many PSAPs is do more with less. Positions are being phased out through attrition. There are pressures to automate manual and time-consuming processes, and in fact, in QA, there are mechanisms in place to automate coaching for recurring errors and situations. Quality assurance should be conducted to gauge compliance with policy and procedures. QA can aid an agency in limiting their liability exposure before an unfortunate incident happens and there is a lawsuit. Lawsuits, as we know, drain management resources and weaken public confidence in emergency communication services. That risk can be reduced by implementing a quality assurance program. The monitoring and evaluation process can help spot potential breaches of protocol or poor call handling practices before a tragic situation develops, such as in the recent case from Graham, Washington, near Seattle, which was noted in the February 10, 2012 edition of APCO's Public Safety Communications e-News. In this particular case, a social worker was called for assistance when a man, Josh Powell, already a person of interest in the case of his missing wife in Utah, was scheduled for a supervised visit with his 2 children. Upon arrival, he slammed the door in the social worker's face, refusing her entry, and the home smelled of gasoline. The caseworker was shaken and did not even have the exact address readily available. Yet the call taker did not provide a lot of reassurance to her. Some might say he was short, and he did not catch the statement about the smell of gasoline. Josh Powell killed 1 child with a hatchet and set fire to the gas-covered home. He and both children are dead now. During the call for help, when the social worker asked for an ETA, the answer was unfortunately somewhat standard. I don't know, ma'am. We have to respond to life-threatening situations first. The first available deputy will be sent. Since then, the Sheriff's Department has stated they were displeased with that dispatcher's etiquette because the social worker was left with the impression that no help was immediately on the way. It does bear noting that this particular call taker has already spoken out in an interview and called his own actions faltering. QA will help personnel understand the need for all the soft skills that add up to good customer service on every single call. Yet overall, the primary reason PSAP should conduct quality assurance evaluations is very simple: to assure that citizens are consistently receiving quality of service they expect and deserve from their 911 centers. So what is the current conditions of quality assurance in our PSAPs today? Many of today's telecommunicators are undermotivated and are not adequately recognized for their performance excellence. Management faces a problem, that being the perception of quality assurance being a completely punitive process. Many telecommunicators feel that management only looks for the bad calls, when in fact the QA program should be providing encouragement and recognition for a job well done. And training should occur when there is room for improvement. The program should provide guidance to overcome skill or knowledge gaps, which would lead long-term to increased telecommunicator job satisfaction. What are the standards for objective quality assurance and quality improvement that we have been referring to? Originally, the standards were mostly limited to emergency medical dispatch. This includes the ASTM standard F1560. That standard requires 7 to 10% of EMD calls to be reviewed. However, many people aren't aware of a lot of the other standards in existence, such as the APCO International ANSI standard, Minimum Training Standards for Public Safety Telecommunicators, which does require quality assurance reviews. APCO P33 certification requires that an agency have a QA program in place. Agencies pursuing CALIA accreditation should note that there exists a requirement to establish a QA program for all call types. The National Emergency Number Association has an emergency call processing standard, number 56-6, and which requires a quality assurance program and that there is continuing education based upon the results of the performance review. NFPA standards 1710 and 1221 call for periodic evaluation for compliance with their performance minimum standard. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, commonly called Ncic, has requirement for agency partners to QA missing and exploited persons calls. There are also new QA standards on the horizon. Currently, a joint committee of APCO and NENA members are drafting the standard for quality assurance evaluations. This standard is on the fast track to become an ANSI certified standard and is nearly completed now. The standard encompasses the entire quality assurance process and will define what is acceptable for our industry. As I'm sure you are aware, there is a high cost to continual new hire training due to turnover, which may in part be increased if you have a weak quality assurance program. Initial training of a new telecommunicator is in the tens of thousands of dollars, and that is after the expense of recruitment, background, interview, psychological, any of the testing that you might complete for your agency. Turnover during the training process is 50 to 70%, again, an increased expense. APCO International ProChart Committee published a report regarding the challenges facing 911 public safety communications professionals. This report was released at the annual APCO conference in August of 2011. In the report, the entire nation receives an F, or failing grade, on meeting the training needs, educational needs, and stress needs of telecommunicators necessary to provide them the incentive to stay in this profession long term. 97% of telecommunicators will not work in this profession long enough to retire. At this point, we want to conduct our first interactive poll. How many calls per month do you queue quality assurance tenured employees? If you would select a number and submit your answer, while the poll results are being tabulated, I want to take a moment to look at the fact that training and quality assurance are inseparable partners. The poll results are back. How many calls per month do you quality assurance per tenured employee? 25% of the respondents are not doing any QA. 25% of the respondents are doing 4 to 7 calls per employee per month, and 37.5% are doing in excess of 10 quality assurance on their employees per month. 12.5% currently have no QA program in place. Thank you for your participation in our audience poll. At this point, let's take a look at the ProChart report that led us to take a look at the factors that impact PSAP job satisfaction. According to the APCO Project Retain study, which was performed at the University of Denver, some of the factors that are impacting telecommunicator ongoing job satisfaction include proper and complete initial and ongoing training, feeling appreciated by management, sense of satisfaction in mentoring new employees, and feeling appreciated by their immediate supervisor. As you can clearly see, quality assurance and training are partners, and perhaps this was best stated by Dick Bochi with Polaris Associates. Quality assurance without structured training and coaching programs is like knowing the speed limit but not knowing how to use your accelerator. Coaching and training are the mechanisms that will produce the change that you're seeking. To be effective, your quality assurance program must be established in policy. As stated by Matt Stillwell, Director of Emergency Management with the City of Edmond, Oklahoma, and a member of the APCO International Standards Development Committee, we QA more than EMD calls to provide great service to all citizens, not just those with medical emergencies. Since EMD is subject to QA, there is a public expectation that all high-priority incident types are being reviewed. An agency must create a policy regarding the quality assurance process to ensure compliance with all other policies and procedures. There is no way to know with any level of certainty whether or not telecommunicators are complying with policy and procedure without monitoring and evaluating calls from across all disciplines. Periodic QA of all call types should be conducted and analyzed to identify points of weakness, and over time will show performance trends. This analysis will allow you to spot deficiencies in your telecommunicator performance as well as in your agency training program. In the initial training, quality assurance must-haves include various items such as thorough initial training. There are a lot of items that are involved in the memorization of various terms, codes, etc., that would be perfect for self-based or computer-based learning, thus reducing the need to have a trainer in the classroom. Further, as you do your ongoing training, there is a need for targeted education for all the coachings. Computer-based or web-based learning would be essential for this. What are some additional quality assurance must-haves? When evaluating performance, the evaluations must include the soft skills, such as call control, calmness, vocal clarity, an appropriate rate of speech, appropriate vocabulary, empathy to the caller, rapid and proper problem-solving skills, basic courtesy, in fact, all of the elements adding up to outstanding customer service. Also, the QA program must be equal across all levels of experience to aid management in staying alert to possible signs of cumulative stress that may affect the performance. Recently on a social media site, it was a group for 911 telecommunicators, and someone posted a question regarding what type of customer service training various agencies are conducted. And the following answers were posted. I don't believe customer service is relevant in an emergency. I don't believe we are a customer service-oriented business. You want customer service? Call Best Buy. I'm not here to be your buddy on the phone. I'm here to get you the proper service and help as soon as possible. I think those statements all by themselves show the need for evaluation of the soft and customer service skills of our telecommunicators. Why is there a perception that QA is a punitive process? With the many demands on our PSAPs today, many PSAPs only review calls and address problems when investigating complaints or when issues arise, and that is not a quality assurance program. Your quality assurance program should be a continual process aimed at catching telecommunicators performing exceptionally well. In the late 1920s and early 1930s, in a Hawthorne, Illinois manufacturing plant, there was a study conducted regarding the impact of various lighting in the work environment. However, there was a surprise response in this experiment. Regardless of how the work environment was manipulated, brighter lights, dimmer lights, employee performance improved. After interviews, it was determined that the improvement was based upon the fact that someone cared enough about the employees to study them. Just by paying attention to the employees, there was increased employee motivation and work performance. Taking the time to recognize your telecommunicators and the work they do will aid in increased motivation. The bad apple in the crowd will not be able to hide behind the hard workers any longer. The quiet telecommunicator in the corner will get their fair share of the attention, and those who are consistently outstanding in their performance will be recognized. What we need to do to create a quality assurance program is turn any employee frustration into cooperation. Have your employees participate in the creation of your quality assurance program. This helps assure them that the process is both objective and fair. It will also ensure their buy-in, thereby compliance with the program. Regularly conduct random quality assurance. For example, you may QA a set number of calls for each employee per month, as some indicated in our poll, you should ensure that they are randomly selected to ensure that not just the bad calls are selected, as is the punitive view of this QA program. Establish in policy that evaluations will be done on all high-priority incidents, or perhaps, depending upon your call volume, a percentage of certain high-priority incidents, not just the ones where errors occurred, which is most common in many centers. Having a predefined process turns what could have been subjective quality assurance into an objective process, which will equate to better acceptance by all telecommunicators. Some examples of the types of high-priority incidents that may be targeted for quality assurance by discipline include in the EMS arena, chest pains, CPR, heart attacks, childbirth, drowning, extrication calls. So far as law enforcement, you may want to look at officer-involved shootings, robberies, home invasions, hostage situations. Fire rescue may want to take a look at bombs or explosions, then natural disasters, tornadoes, hurricanes, large-scale wildland fires, hazardous materials incidents, and more. Share what you learn as a result of your evaluations. If your program does not provide timely feedback that is relevant and not nitpicky to the telecommunicators, then you will most likely not see the desired changes in performance and behavior. You should include quality assurance reviews in the compilation of your annual evaluations. Provide increased objectivity and documentation to validate your evaluation scores. Also, you may want to allow employees to flag and select some calls for quality assurance, making this process a two-way street. They may flag good calls for inclusion in scores, and over time, with trust in the process, they may flag calls on which they would like policy clarification or feedback that they may not want included in their QA scores. As you receive results, you should share them in a timely manner, giving employees timely access to the reports on all their quality assurance scores, and you might also want to publish real-time performance results. Alachua County Consolidated Communications Center in Gainesville, Florida, performed an experiment. Their strategy was to publish real-time statistics about each caller's scores on the average speed of answer on a light board for everyone to see. This resulted in employee competition, which resulted in increased performance and decreased times, which was its goal. As additional statistics were published, more improvements followed. Now we are moving into designing effective quality assurance evaluation forms. The first step in designing effective QA forms is determine what knowledge, skills, and ability, or KSAs, that you are going to evaluate. This may be the telephone answering phrase, correctly determining incident location and not by reading off the 911 screen, customer service skills, entering the correct call classification, the timeliness of the CAD entry, entering enough information into CAD so others can understand the situation at hand, spelling, utilization of any guide cards that are required, correct units dispatched per protocols, where Ncic results appropriately run in the system. Whatever job, knowledge, skills, or abilities that your agency would like to evaluate for can be included in your forms. Once you have all the knowledge, skills, and abilities determined, you can organize them into the flow of a call, thereby creating a natural flow to your form, and then you can determine what type of rating system you want to use. In fact, if you choose the more critical elements, can be weighted heavier in the total evaluation score. As we look at this first form, it's rather generic and is primarily composed of yes, no, or obvious ratings, or not applicable. And there's point values assigned, ending in a cumulative points-based total score. This second form is rather similar to the first, and then again it's primarily yeses and nos, or not applicable, and points values assigned to each category. As you can tell, some of the point values are rated higher or lower. For example, in case entry, we have point values of 10, 35, 35, 8, 8, and 4. Clearly, the items identified at 35 points are much more critical to the mission of the Communication Center. Once again, this is just a different type of layout. You may also create evaluation forms in a similar manner to your CTO Daily Observation Report forms. You might want to use the San Jose Model Evaluation 7-point rating scale. If that's more comfortable for you to work with, then by all means create your forms using that. When creating forms, you may also find that one form does not appropriately review all calls. You may want to create different QA forms for different call types, and this will allow for more accurate scoring criteria and better assignment of the coaching or training content. In EMS, you may have forms for call taking, pre-arrival, instructions provided, or dispatch case review. Law enforcement may take a look at call taking, dispatch, or teletype. Fire rescue may choose to look at call taking or tactical dispatch case review. Those are just examples. You'll know your agency's best. However, don't hesitate to create an additional form for those specialty items. Scoring on all QA forms must be objective, and there should be some predefined performance benchmarks that are used for grading. Some items may be very linear and allow for yes/no questions. Other items may include more variables. If you have variables, specific variables, they should equate to a grade and be defined in writing in advance for your QA program to maintain its objectivity. It is very important that all personnel must be trained on what the performance benchmarks are prior to having their job performance evaluated, particularly if you are going to use QA scores in the completion of the employee's annual evaluations. Once the QA program has been running for a few months, you can start analyzing the results achieved. You can determine average compliance levels on each individual, each shift, and the entire communication center. And these percentages are required for compliance with that ASTM standard that we mentioned earlier. You may also conduct an analysis looking for common trends and perhaps errors that you would need to partner with your agency training division and create some continuing education to address. Also at that point, you may want to work to ensure that the topic is more comprehensively covered in later new hire training. As always, you want to praise in public and do your coaching privately. Consistent, exemplary quality assurance scores should result in a reward of some type. That reward might be public recognition in your center, perhaps a commendation from your chief executive officer. Some agencies may adopt a rewards program with comp time off or gift cards for consistent exemplary performance evaluations. Also, consistent exemplary performance should result in being submitted for your telecommunicator of the year in agency, county, state, and submitted to APCO International. You can use the various recording technologies available to you to quickly identify and use best practice call recordings that demonstrate a job well done. These recordings can be shared with others in training. And be sure that you acknowledge the telecommunicator who did the performance. If the telecommunicator underperforms during a call, you may in some cases automate the e-learning and set up a process to trigger assignments directly from your quality assurance scores. At this point, we will be conducting our second polling question. Do you have a coaching or training component to your quality assurance program to address documented performance deficiencies? Please select one of the buttons on your screen and submit your answer. Once you have documented a performance deficiency, you must do something to effect a change in that performance or behavior. Oftentimes, our overworked quality assurance and training divisions don't have the extra time to create performance improvement plans to address these issues, and pass it off to similarly overworked shift supervisors. To overcome this challenge, when you're creating your quality assurance program, you may want to create some predefined coaching materials on commonly occurring errors that will be automatically delivered for recurring issues or may be triggered by non-compliant grade on a particular knowledge, skill, or ability. These may include topics such as vocal tone, inflection, sounds of irritation or boredom, sighing. You may also pre-create coachings on radio enunciation, proper rates of speech for understanding, agency policy, or call hand processing protocols. It does bear noting that not all coaching should be negative. In fact, they shouldn't be. Coachings can and should also be created on topics such as stress management, after bad calls, perhaps re-notifying the telecommunicator of what if stress management services are available to them through your agency. And coachings may also be positive in the form of feedback for staying truly calm with those sometimes challenging callers. The types of training materials that you utilize for coaching are only limited by your imagination. These materials may include videos. There's a lot of freebies on YouTube. Just be sure to pre-screen them. Audio recorded best practice calls. These can come from your agency or perhaps an audio you come across while reading industry-related news on the Internet. Case studies. It's always great to share the case studies and show that it's not just your thoughts on liability. This is an actual lawsuit demonstrating that liability. You may use computer-based presentations. You can pre-prepare PowerPoint presentations for your personal view, or you can obtain commercially created online training. Reading materials. Industry magazines such as APCO's Public Safety Communications magazine regularly have educational articles, some of which even allow for continuing education credit. Anything that can aid a telecommunicator in engaging and learning. You may also elect to conduct written quizzes in conjunction with coaching that verify that learning did take place. And in some cases, your performance improvement plan might include a combination of external resources, such as courses from the APCO Institute, with your internal resources that you have created. At this time, I'd like to see if our poll results are ready. Do you have a coaching or training component to your quality assurance? 33% of you are yes. 16% are no. 5% refer this to training. 23% transfer it to the shift supervisor, and 22% of you want to develop a coaching or training component to your program. I'd also like to now introduce Patrick Boats, who's going to speak about quality assurance and coaching tools.
Thank you so much, Lori and Carrie. That was a phenomenal introduction, some great resources, great materials. I'm now pleased to introduce you to some of the automated tools. With the pressure that's of resources and constrained resources, there's a big initiative in public safety to automate as much as we can within the quality assurance and the coaching process. And I'd like to introduce you to some of those tools today. Before we get started on the tools, we thank you for, while registering, we had over 1,000 agencies registered to attend the webinar today. And this is your feedback on the registration form. How do you perform QA today? So just to give you an idea of what it looks like throughout public safety agencies, 34% have their own process that may be using spreadsheets or paper forms or some internal process. 25% use a commercially available software, and it may be for just EMD calls or for a wide range of calls. 31% have no formal QA program yet, and then a smaller percentage have in-house software. So just to give you an idea of where you stand in regards to other agencies. So I wanted to introduce you to the web-based tools that are available today and show you how they can really automate your workflow. You maybe have some automation, but as you'll see, there's quite a bit more automation built in to the new QA and coaching tools, and a lot of flexibility to really evolve to your agency and to evolve to changing standards and dynamics. So first of all, the forms are extremely easy to edit. You can basically create any form within the VPI PIQA software. For example, this form here is actually the NINA 911 form, the sample Form A that Lori showed earlier. And what it allows you to do is create tabs where you can have questions on as many number of tabs as you like, and you can also have any type of questions, yes, no. You could have a range like a 1 through 7, like Lori mentioned. In this case, it's just a yes, no. That's what was on the NINA form. We do preload several sample forms in the system, so out of the box when you receive the software, there's a lot of forms in there that you can edit or just use as is. You can duplicate them and create different forms for different call types, like Lori mentioned. But one of the really unique capabilities here is not only the ability to weight different question types, so you could weight certain types of questions that are more important or certain skills differently than other questions, but you can also follow the call flow, the call processing flow. So you can use that by developing the flow of the call, for example, the introduction of the call, all the way through the different call flow processes. Those could be the tabs. And then you may have different types of communications within each tab or different types of skills. So, for example, you could have a communication question on every tab. Traditionally in Excel, you can't really do this, or on paper it's more difficult to actually follow the flow of the call. But you can do that in this software that's very flexible and allows you to actually build in the flow of the call. Another thing that's very powerful is the ability to add actions to QA questions. And an action could be a coaching assignment, it could be an alert, just a pop-up message, or it could be an email to either the dispatcher, call taker, supervisor, or management. But typically what it's used for is for assigning coaching. And you can see on the bottom right-hand corner where you essentially decide, all right, if they get a no on this question, the goal is yes, then I want to automatically assign coaching to that particular call taker or dispatcher that got a no on that question. What that does is it really allows you to standardize coaching across supervisors, across shifts, and even across centers. And it really helps limit liability and risk because you have a documented reports on who received coaching and how many times they received that type of coaching when they got that question wrong on the QA evaluation. So it's a real powerful capability. Just in looking at the poll results, we noticed that 23% of you are leaving it up to the supervisor to perform coaching, and supervisors play a huge role not only in coaching but also retention of call takers and dispatchers. But what this allows you to do is to ensure that across different supervisors you are automatically assigning coaching to the call takers and dispatchers, and you're not relying on the supervisor if they forget to do so. It's going to automatically do that for you. The other ability that the new QA systems have is the ability to tag Cad data to the recordings. And one thing that's nice about the QA systems is they automatically pull up the call recording with the actual QA form. And I'll show that here in a minute. But what's nice about tagging Cad data to recordings is you can tag things like incident ID, incident location, the incident status, the severity, the incident type, and even notes. So all that information becomes searchable, not only when you're searching for recordings, but when you're building rules for quality monitoring. So if you want to expand beyond EMD calls and you want to evaluate certain types of law enforcement calls or hazmat calls, things of that nature, it will automatically identify the incident type, and you can send a percentage of those types of calls or 100% of calls of certain high priority incidents that you'd like to be evaluated. So there's a lot of value not only in enhancing your searches, but and also one of the other things it does, by grabbing incident ID, the system automatically pulls together all calls or all communications related to that incident for you, so you don't have to go manually hunt and peck for related communications related to that incident ID. A lot of value there. So then, essentially, what it does is the evaluator, whether it be a trainer or a supervisor or a QA analyst, whoever's doing the evaluation, receives a to-do list. And the to-do list will basically tell you, here are the calls that need to be evaluated. There's a due date, and it shows you whether they're in progress or scheduled. And what's nice about that is it actually will automatically send you the high priority incident types that you'd like to evaluate, either percentage of or 100% of those types of incidents, depending. Some states have different requirements where they require 100% of certain incident types to be evaluated and only a percentage of other incident types to be evaluated. But it'll automatically give you a to-do list, so you don't have to go hunt and peck and search and try to find those calls. The other thing it automatically will give you the proper QA form. So a best practice is to have a quality assurance form for each type of incident that you're evaluating, because there's different questions you want to ask when you're evaluating different incidents. So you don't have to worry about choosing the form. It's going to automatically send that form to you as well. And then basically what happens is you get the form presented to you, and the screen video. Typically, our customers will also record screen video as well, and it could be one or multiple monitors. Oftentimes, they're recording the CAD monitor during the call, as well as the mapping system, so they can see what's going on and see how the call taker or dispatchers were navigating through the CAD system while they were processing the emergency call. So it's nice, a really great feature to have. That automatically pops up. You can push that off onto another monitor while you're evaluating. And then you also get the audio timeline as well. So what's neat about that is you can see what was the time elapsed between the time the dispatcher answered the call versus, for example, when the tone sounded off when fire station vocal alarms are indicated, or some other important event that you're looking for. So you now have, the elapsed time that you can actually document and include in your QA forms to see how long is that getting better over time or worse, depending on by call taker and by dispatcher. So again, this is an example of sample form B. So the law enforcement the call taker law enforcement form, we easily just created that within the software, and that's actually one that is standard out of the box in our system. And you can see that it actually kind of follows the call flow. If you look at the tab, you have the incident information, the case entry, chief complaint, call processing, customer service, and comments. So it's kind of following the call flow a little bit more than the earlier form we looked at. But you may have one that follows the call flow exactly, and you can do that. Again, you will get scores on the right-hand side. If you look at the evaluation overview box on the right-hand side, you see scores for all the skills. So each question can have a skill associated with it. And you get scores for the tabs. So then you can later report on how are call takers or teams doing on different skills. Are they improving on skills? Or are they improving on segments within the call? So the intro of the call, maybe after the call, the wrap time, when they're actually entering additional information into the systems about the call they just processed. What is that looking like? Are we getting better over time? So a lot of flexibility in building forms and then reporting on the information as well. And I see a lot of great questions coming in, so keep them coming in. We look forward to answering them very shortly. And then, essentially, mentioned earlier that if call taker dispatcher gets below goal on a question, or they get a no on a yes/no question, they'll automatically receive coaching assignments. That can be in the form of a ticker, as you see here. This ticker just docks above an existing application, typically not on the CAD screen or the mapping screen. It's usually one of the side monitors, but it can also just be in a web-based tool where they log in and they see their My Coaching assignments, and they're prioritized by order of importance, and they're customized for each call taker and dispatcher based on where they have need. And you can also send coaching assignments and make them high priority to everyone. So if there's a new policy, a new procedure, or even just a notification, it could just be a message that they have to acknowledge. You get a report that shows, if it's a coaching assignment, how they did on that coaching assignment. If it's just a message, they have to click OK and acknowledge that they did read that message or read that PDF or that document that you sent them on the new policy, and then you're able to report on who actually acknowledged it. So it's nice to be able to not only see that in real time as who's actually reading what you're sending, but also for reviews, so you can document performance improvements, and also if there's some sort of liability, you can go back and say, hey, we sent this to you, you acknowledged it, or you took this quiz and you got this on it, this course. So very valuable for kind of those kind of cases as well. E-learning is a fantastic supplement to classroom training. It's not going to replace classroom training, but it's a very inexpensive way to kind of directly target employees' weaknesses. If they have skill gaps that you're trying to bridge, this is a great way to do that. You'll find that some people actually prefer e-learning, and they really love it because it is self-paced. They can do it at their own pace, and when they go back, let's say they need to go back onto a shift, it'll actually remember where they were at in their training course, and they can resume that later on, during their next training session. And then I mentioned earlier the reporting aspect. There are kind of three ways actually that we allow you to report on this information. One here you can see a customizable QA and coaching tickers, and these are real-time tickers, or as real-time as the information is, where dispatchers and call takers and even supervisors, you can set these up. These are drag and drop. You drag the metrics or the QA skill scores that you want to be shown in the tickers. And these, again, dock above an existing application on usually one of the side screens. But it's kind of like a customized light board or wall board, if you will, where each call taker can see how they're doing. And if you want, we even have customers that show how they're doing against their group. So they have some sort of context of, all right, well, I have a 98.2% on incident dispatch. That sounds great. Well, what is the rest of the group average on that same skill score? So you can see examples of tickers that were developed by our customers here, where they have the most recent QA score, the number of coaching assignments assigned to me in the first one. You see 4 coaching assignments. You can actually drill down on that number 4, and it'll pop open the My Coaching assignments that they can take when their training session is up. And then you can see the number of calls processed, number of QA evaluations, and the average score of the last 30 days. And then they do show different skill scores. So dispatchers have different skills, right? Incident dispatch, unit assignment, information broadcast, documentation, notification, and unit safety. And then call takers have different skills that they're evaluated on: case entry, choice of chief complaint, call processing, and then customer service. So again, these are completely flexible. You'll notice that each of them do have messages as well, so the messages get populated to the ticker. So if you do need to send a message out, you can see here that Ventana Canyon is approaching approaching Highway 91 at the Mount Carmel exit. So there's a fire moving quickly there. And that's something that you can just broadcast quickly to all call takers and dispatchers, and they have to acknowledge that little OK button that pops up over the ticker. You also get customizable dashboards, and the dashboards can be used to, they're real-time dashboards, but typically used by supervisors and managers where they log into the web-based portal and they have their own customized dashboard. Again, they can have their to-do list of calls that need to be evaluated. That could be one of the widgets here. We call them widgets. And a lot of different types of trending reports where you can see how your team, how you're progressing over time on different call types, different skills, things of that nature. And you can also print them out to share evaluation forms. This is a feature that a lot of our customers use when they're actually designing the QA forms. So they'll print them out, they'll get together in a room, and they'll actually decide, what weightings they want to give to different questions, how they want the questions to flow in terms of the way the call flows, and what skills they want to assign. We can also print them out after the evaluation is completed and share them with during the coaching sessions with the call takers and supervisors as well. So that was just a brief introduction into some of the ways in which the new tools can help you automate your quality and coaching processes. Again, these are affordable tools that you can supplement with your existing recording system. They work well with existing systems, and typically we'll just tap the consoles, and because we still want the value of having the recorded calls playing with the QA form, so we'll typically do that. That can be side by side with your existing recording system. The existing system is more for full reliability and full redundancy. For quality assurance purposes, we really use the console audio, so we can pull that up, so you don't have to manually hunt and peck for the audio files. And it also integrates well with VPI's next-gen 911 recording system. So if you're on the market for a new recording system, VPI is a fantastic system that is NG 911 ready. As you start to accept things like text messages, images, videos, emails, things of that nature, you will be ready for that with that recording system. But it integrates either way with a VPI recording system or just an excellent supplement to existing recording systems if you just bought a system 1 or 2 years ago. We'll be hosting a live demonstration we'd like to invite you to, and that'll be February 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you go to vpi-corp.com/demonstration, we'll actually go through a lot more of the actual software and answer a lot of your questions regarding the software at that time. So we invite you to attend that. And at this point, I'd like to invite Lori to just talk a little bit about their wonderful Replay QA quality assurance service.
Thank you, Patrick. Replay QA is a new service aspect of Replay Systems Incorporated. What it is we help to assist with completing objective QA scoring with a fast turnaround needed by all personnel for timely and relevant feedback. We use experienced assessors with an average of 20 years of experience, and we basically conduct the QAs for your agency in keeping with your agency protocols. This helps save time and money and keeps you focused on your operational priorities and needs while ensuring that your quality assurance is taking place.
Right. I think we open it up for Q&A at this time. There's some great questions that have been coming in.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, we do have a lot of great questions coming in, and our first question, I think, it probably be for Lori. And this question is, should my QA program include both the random sampling of calls as well as targeted high-priority incidents? And that comes from Dennis in Minnesota.
Dennis, I think, yes, it should include both. The random sampling of calls will help you to find your telecommunicators performing excellently, And also, you do want to target those high-priority incidents, your higher liability incidents, to ensure that they are meeting all your protocols and standards as well.
Great. Thanks, Lori. Our next question comes from Sherry in Louisiana, and she asks, could a separate form be created to evaluate the teletype operators and performance of Ncic functions? So, Lori, maybe you could take that one, too.
Absolutely. In fact, I would recommend it if you're going to QA your entire staff and you are going to look at your Ncic functions and see whether or not the actual correct requests were fulfilled, the correct items were run, the returns were appropriately read and returned. Yes, I would create a separate evaluation form.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Derek in New Hampshire. And Patrick, maybe this is one for you, and we've actually had several people ask this as well. What CAD systems do you integrate with?
Yeah, hi, Derek. I'm also based in New Hampshire. So the CAD systems that I've recently worked with are Integraph, Tritech, Tibron. Those are just a few of the ones, but it works with a variety of CAD systems. Essentially what we do is just work with them to do an API, a backend API connected to their CAD system to pull that information while the call takers and dispatchers are on the call. So it's a fairly simple process, but one that, depending on what CAD system you have, we usually just get in touch with them and make that connection.
Okay, thank you. Our next question comes from Brad in Colorado. So Replay QA as a service will conduct the QA evaluations for our agency. And Lori, maybe you want to take that one?
Yes, Replay QA will conduct QA evaluations on call taking or dispatching. Clearly, we would never want access to your your Ncic format. However, on your call taking and or dispatching, yes.
Okay. We're burning through these, which is great because we have a lot of questions here. Our next question comes from Christina in Oregon, and she asks, we currently evaluate only EMD calls. Can we use the VPI QA software to evaluate our EMD calls as well as other incident types?
Absolutely. With the EMD calls, essentially you can set up the EMD form. So, we've had customers set up the APCO EMD protocol, those types of forms in the system as well. So they can evaluate the EMD calls as well as the different law enforcement, all the different high priority incidents. It can also be used side by side if you're already using a software to evaluate EMD calls. You can use it kind of side by side with that software as well. Again, one of the benefits is that it will actually pull up the recording with the QA form for you if you do evaluate the EMD calls within the VPI QA software. Great question.
Excellent, thank you. Stacy in Florida would like to know, can e-learning courses be taken in a classroom?
That's a great question, one that we get quite a bit. Actually, yeah, the e-learning courses and the coaching assignments can be taken either at the desktop on a break or a coaching scheduled coaching session at the desktop, or you can take them in a classroom environment. Essentially what the call taker dispatcher does, they log into the web-based interface. So as long as there's some sort of internet access to your internal network, they can log in, and then it basically authenticates against their security rights, and they're going to see their own personalized list of my coaching assignments, and they can go through and take the coaching assignments there. And then the supervisors get reports on how they did on those, and if you create the e-learning assignments in what's called a SCORM compliant manner, SCORM, that's kind of the standard for e-learning, then we can actually see how much time they spent on each question and how they did on each question. So it's really nice. You get very detailed reporting on where call takers and dispatchers are struggling, and then you can address those skill gaps. Thank you.
That's great. That sounds very useful. Our next question comes from Kurt in Indiana, and he asks, do you suggest one person do all QA work or divide it up by shift or supervisor? And if it is divided up, would it be a good idea to have supervisors only evaluate those not on their respective shift? So, Lori, maybe that's something you want to start with, and if Patrick has something to add, you can jump in there.
Absolutely. That's an excellent question. The most important part would be to ensure that you have objective grading criteria so that there's no way for any personal biases to come into play. And I'm presuming that's why you're asking about supervisors evaluating personnel only not on their shift. However, if your program is written with objective grading criteria, anyone should be able to conduct the evaluation. One person probably will not be able to keep up with the volume unless that's the only thing they have to do. And I know many agencies who do divide it up by shift supervisors. And in fact, those that I'm aware of do their own shift rather than not evaluating their own personnel. It all comes down to your policy and your program setup.
Great. Christopher from Florida, and this is maybe a question for Patrick, asks, is there an interface for pulling recordings up from a Stancil recording system, tagging those recordings to calls flagged for QA?
Yeah, so essentially what we do, the way we do it is to get the recorded audio, we'll essentially tap just the analog consoles or the consoles and essentially record those as well. So that way you have the benefit of pulling up the recording. In terms of interfacing with different recorders, not all companies make the data associated with that call recording that readily available. So what we do is just record it as well. So you still have your recorder running that you have for full-time purposes. And then what we would do is actually just record just the consoles. And you don't need to store those for as long. You can store them as long as you like, but we essentially just store them as long as we need for QA purposes. And then the recordings will come up with the QA form that way. So that tends to work out well. That's typically a best practice and what we like to do for our customers. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you. Another question from Florida. This comes from Carla, and she asks, what is your definition of coaching? Is it formal training, simple discussion, notes on QA form, or something different?
Carla, this is Lori, and I would have to say that a coaching, as we're defining it, is anything that's going to affect a change in the performance or behavior of that telecommunicator. On the smaller scale, sometimes it is a simple person-to-person conversation with a shift supervisor presenting the evaluation to the telecommunicator. However, with your more high liability issues, you want some documentation other than an oral conversation. You would want some reading material, you would want some learning material, and possibly a test or quiz at the end of the learning material to ensure that learning did take place. But every time that you do sit down and talk with somebody about the performance, you are conducting a coaching.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think having at least one or two questions just at the end of even a document, and I know I do this with my team, but having some sort of documentation on whether they understood that material, they actually read it, I think is key. There are going to be times, as Lori mentioned earlier, that maybe a call taker dispatcher just wants to click on the recording and flag it, right? Maybe they need some help and they'd like to review it with their supervisor or trainer. They want some tips and things like that. In that case, maybe it doesn't necessarily need to be documented, but I agree. Everything is a coaching opportunity. There's a lot of coaching opportunities. As supervisors, we should be spending 60% of our time coaching, if we can. Obviously, if we're not taking or processing or handling calls, but everything is a coaching opportunity, and if you can document it, which a lot of these new tools allow you to, I highly recommend that.
Great, thank you. And I know we're running out of time, so let's just take one more question here. This is from Jesse in Ohio. And the question is, are coaching and learning assignments pre-made, or are they something that needs to be developed by the PSAP?
Laura, you want to start with that, and then I can follow up?
Excellent. Yes, most of the coaching and learning assignments are going to need to be created at the agency level because your protocols, your policies, your procedures are not the same as the other agencies. So you are going to want them to be somewhat unique to your agency. Other coaching materials could be pre-made, or you could research online and find different learning materials, such as continuing education articles that have been published in the magazine that would be appropriate for that type of common error.
That's good. There are also some creative ways to really, and it's not necessarily in the form of an e-learning course, but we've seen agencies hold what you call like an Academy Awards kind of day, or a Public Safety Olympics, where essentially each call taker dispatcher, there's categories. So like for different incident types, the best turnaround call, or you create whatever kind of categories of great best practices calls that you want to start to capture, and then you allow your call takers and dispatchers to actually flag the calls that they want to enter into those categories. And then you can have a whole kind of celebration. It could be a black tie, like the Academy Awards type of thing, or you could do like an Olympics type of celebration, if you will, where you get gold medals and silver medals and bronze medals. But it's kind of a great way to really not only create a best practices call library, which is what we recommend, because those are great for training. And the software, the VPI QA software, will actually allow you to edit out the sensitive information within those calls. So if there's things that you don't necessarily want to be shared within those calls, you can actually redact those and use those, for training. Those are great ways to train. And even if you don't do the Academy Awards or the Olympics, just using best practice calls from your call library that you're creating, those are fantastic tools for coaching. So again, those are going to be very nicely customized to your agency, because they're actually taken and flagged by your call takers and dispatchers.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and thank you, Patrick and Lori, for answering those questions. We had a lot of other questions coming in, so Patrick and Lori are going to be addressing those as well, and we should be able to get the answers back out to you. So I will turn it back over to Carrie.
Thanks, Shannon. I want to thank all of you for participating today, and thank you to our speakers, to both of you, Lori and Patrick, and to VPI and Replay Systems for making this possible. To our audience, please let us know what you thought about this presentation by completing our survey. And before everyone logs off, I want to remind you that the presentation will be archived within 24 hours, or 48 hopefully in there, at http://psc.apcointl.org, and the full URL is there on your screen now. Please do share this presentation with your colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.